Let's move right into one of the most critical stories that is out there, and that is the ongoing genocide in Gaza. And we are very, very honored to be joined as we continue our conversation here by Ahmed Alnaouq, who's a Palestinian journalist with Palestine Deep Dive, and also the co-founder and director of We Are Not Numbers. Ahmed, thank you so much for being with us.
No, thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's an honor to have you here with us. I mean, it's Rania and I talk about this a lot. I mean, the scale of what's happening now in Gaza is so intense. I mean, just to read you a headline, this is the top headline from Middle East Monitor right now. Israel kills 80 Palestinians in Gaza on Wednesday. Most were seeking food. I mean, the combination of murder, of famine. I mean, I don't think there was ever a question of this being a genocide for some time, but now it just seems so undeniable that anyone who is trying to say it is not is in and of themselves complicit, it feels.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to say that these humanitarian zones, these humanitarian distribution centers are not actually humanitarians. They're the furthest thing from being a humanitarian. They are death traps. And Israel was forced to make these distribution centers in order to lure the Palestinians to come to slaughterhouses and to kill them all. And of course, Israel will not kill all the Palestinians who go to these distribution centers. They just want to kill the Palestinians slowly, and they want to tell the world that you see, we're good with distributing aid to the people. We're giving them food. But at the same time, they're shooting Palestinians deliberately in order to make the Palestinians so scared of coming to these distribution centers. So it's like layers above layers of dehumanizations, of dehumanization, of killing, of murder, of starving, of genocide. And there are no words that can describe what is actually happening in Gaza. And there are no words that can describe how I am disgusted with the Western media, the mainstream media that still talk about these death traps as they are humanitarian distribution centers.
I'm really glad you raised that because that's how they're being framed in the mainstream media, and the corporate media's complicity around the world in this genocide is just so massive when it comes to the way everything Israel does is framed. It's covered up, it's somehow justified, and then everything Palestinians do is, criminal or terroristic. And, you obviously were recently on Piers Morgan, and you did a really fantastic job of calling out the media complicity. You challenged one of the most common and really dangerous distortions in Western media, and that is that Palestinians who use violence against Israelis do it because they're Jewish. And you made it really clear that the issue is not religion. It's the fact that there is an occupation that happens to be led by Israelis who happen to be Jewish. And they're targeted because they're occupiers, not for their religion. And I thought that was so, so, so powerful, that exchange. So I'm just curious if you could maybe explain, what that framing that we continue to see reveals about how Palestinians have been just so dehumanized and misrepresented in the media, and how it actually plays into and justifies this genocide.
Well, I was very happy and very angry at Piers Morgan when he asked me these questions. I was very happy because I wanted to address this point, because there are a lot of misconceptions here in Europe, especially in Europe. I don't know about the US, I've never been there. But I was very angry that me, a Palestinian who lost all of his family, I was very angry that I had to go through these conversations. I did not need to tell the world that we Palestinians, we don't have a problem with the Jewish people, that we don't hate the Jews, that we don't want to kill the Jews. We did not need to do that. I did not need to state that. It should be taken for granted. But unfortunately, here in Europe, there are a lot of misconceptions. Everyone thinks that we have a problem with the Jews. And for God's sake, it doesn't matter how many times we say it, we state it out loud that we don't have a problem with the Jews, that our problem is with Israel, that our problem is with Zionism, that our problem is with colonialism. These our problem with these militias who came 77 years ago to Palestine, kicked us out, killed thousands and thousands of Palestinians, and took our lands, took our homes, and they started their own state on it. We have a problem with that. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter how many times we say that. Doesn't matter how many times we state that. The media will always frame us as the Palestinians who are anti-Semites. And I understand, sometimes I understand why I say that, because Many of the European people, the white European people, have this huge guilt over what happened in the Holocaust. And I agree with them. They should have this guilt. These people, they massacred the Jews. These people are the real anti-Semites. We never had a problem with the Jews. And now they're having this guilt, but unfortunately, they're using their own guilt on the wrong direction. If we are anti racism, if we are anti genocide, then we should be consistent with what we say, with what we do. We should not hate a genocide that happened 80 years ago and then support another genocide that is happening right now in front of our eyes, 4K in our television. It's really hypocritic and it's really sad, and I'm really angry at this reality. We should be better than this. I'm just so angry that it's been 20 months, 20 months of genocide, 20 months of us here in the West watching a live stream genocide, watching thousands and thousands of kids being killed and slaughtered and torn into pieces just because they're Palestinians. And then after 20 months, we come and we host Palestinians to tell them that they're anti-Semites, that we want to hate that we hate the Jews, that we want to kill the Jews. And it's just too many layers of dehumanization.
You know, speaking of consistency, I mean, I think one of the other things we see from Western nations, they're very, they seem to be willing to put sanctions on anyone and everyone at all times unless they are in Israel. And of course, we've recently seen a slight crack maybe in that status quo. New Zealand, Canada, Norway, United Kingdom, and Australia putting some sanctions on Ben Gvir and Smotrich, but not for what's happening in Gaza. Not that the things that they said don't deserve to be censored. But I wonder what you think about that, which of course is being trumpeted by those countries as a great method of accountability.
Well, Smotrich and Ben Gvir are horrible people. They deserve to be sanctioned, of course. But it's really funny for me because the UK and these other countries, they're sanctioning some ministers in the government in Israel for stating genocidal comments, and they're not sanctioning those who are actually committing the genocide, those who have ICC arrest warrants, being like Gallant and Netanyahu. If you really care about preventing a genocide, you should sanction all those who are actually perpetrating a genocide right now in front of our eyes. But of course, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, they deserve to be sanctioned. It's hypocritical, and it's not really, it doesn't make any sense to me.
You know, you have been involved in the book We Are Not Numbers, which is very important when it comes to amplifying and uplifting Palestinian voices, Palestinian writers, artists, journalists, especially in the climate of censorship and repression, where those kinds of voices aren't going to get a mainstream platform or sometimes any platform. And of course, somebody who was heavily involved in We Are Not Numbers is also Rifat El Arir, who was murdered by the Israelis quite early on in the genocide in December of 2023. He was targeted, and he famously said that he will, fight to his last pen. If the last thing if an Israeli soldier comes to his house, he'll throw his expo marker at him if he has to. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about the importance of Palestinians telling their own stories, uplifting their voices. Why is that a project you're so deeply involved with? Well, I mean, it should go without saying, but so often the people who get the platforms to talk about this horrible genocide and this ongoing genocide, 70 years of it, plus aren't even Palestinian. It's often people who are a part of the group who are oppressing them.
Yeah, so this project started in 2000, after 2014, the war in Gaza, in which I lost my brother, my older brother. And then I was encouraged to write a story about this brother, my brother. And at first, I refused to write a story about him because I thought no one cares about the Palestinians. No one wants to read the stories of the Palestinian. But my friend Pam insisted that I should write this story about my brother. And it helped me so much cope with the depression I had. It helped me so much tell the story of my brother to the world. And I really love the idea that, okay, I lost my brother, but writing a story about my brother might immortalize my brother, might make my brother familiar, and might make people, like help people understand the situation in Palestine. And I was only 19 years old back then. But then when I grew up and when I moved to the UK and when I moved to Europe and I found how much the Palestinians are dehumanized, how much the Palestinians are deprived of having this opportunity to tell their stories and share it with the world, the more I believe that our project is very, very important. Unfortunately, the reason why there is a lot of dehumanization in the West is because the Palestinians, for the past 77 years, they never had that chance and the opportunity to write their stories and to share it with the world. And we are not numbers. We try to not only try to we don't only tell the stories of the Palestinians, but we are training our writers, the young people of Gaza, to write their own stories to the world. And most of these stories that we're writing are personal, human stories that are written from under the genocide in Gaza. And I believe there is nothing more powerful than sharing your personal story with the world. Right now, when we are not numbers, we trained more than 400 writers from Gaza to tell their stories and to share them with the world. And we published hundreds and hundreds of stories that will become a testimony for history. In hundreds of years, people will go back to We Are Not Numbers and they will read the stories of these young people in Gaza and they will understand the reality in Gaza as it is. And we are doing this because partly because we want to break the stereotype about the Palestinians in the mainstream media, but also we want to educate the West about what's really happening in Gaza and what's happening to the Palestinians. And I believe no one can really dismiss the stories of these young people who are coming from Gaza. And you know, Rania, I'm very proud of our writers in Gaza. I'm very proud of the young people in Gaza because you know we're living a genocide in Gaza. I'm not in Gaza, but the people in Gaza are living a genocide. And they don't have their devices, they don't have internet connection, they don't have electricity, but they still write their stories and share them with the world. The number of stories that we're publishing right now in the genocide are four times more than the stories we published before the genocide. And these people in Palestine are very talented, they're very human, and they deserve a chance, they deserve a platform to tell their stories. And we are saying to the world, no more dehumanization of the Palestinians, no more sidelining the Palestinian stories, no more silencing of the Palestinians. We took it upon ourselves to tell our stories and to share them with the world. Because unfortunately, we have been failed. We have been let down by the mainstream media, by the Western media, by all the media. And we, the Palestinians, we will stop just complaining about the mainstream media. And we are creating our own platforms in which the Palestinian people write their stories unfiltered to the world. I'm very happy with all the alternative media outlets that there is. I'm very happy with the breakthrough news. I'm so happy with Palestine Deep Dive. I'm so happy with the many, many other platforms that are now emerging from from the people, and they're challenging what's really the mainstream, what's really in the mainstream media.
You know, We Are Not Numbers is such an important book, and whenever I think about it, I always think about Ayman al-Hasari and his beautiful mural in Gaza of George Floyd and the hands, the Palestinian hand and the black hand. And I don't want to, it's a fantastic, fantastic mural and a beautiful mural that says so much. And it just reminds me that, states are obviously doing nothing, are really not acting. But this moment of so many people around the world connecting in a deeper way with the Palestinian cause, which is something that I think many of us felt here in Ferguson and many times with the Palestinians connecting with the Black Liberation Movement. I mean, that feels like such an important element of this as well, an important human element.
Yes, of course. I remember when we did that mural in Gaza, and and we also did, and We Are Not Numbers, many videos about the connection between the Palestinians who are living the oppression in Gaza and the Black people in America who are living oppression from the police in the US. And I believe we humans are all connected in a way or another, and all those who are oppressed are connected in a way or another. In many ways, actually, we are connected, and we should feel for each other. When I see a man who could not breathe because of police brutality, I remember the Palestinians in Gaza who could not breathe because of the genocide, because of the starvation, because of the blockade that lasted for the past 18 months. We are all humans. We are all brothers and sisters, no matter our nationality, no matter our religion. We feel for each other. And We Are Not Numbers, we did not only feel that connection with the Black people in America and all around the world, actually, because the Black people have been suffering in Europe and all around the world because of this dehumanization and this racism that is spread all around the world. But also, we feel connection with the original indigenous people in the US, indigenous people in Australia, and we did the murals for Standing Rock, for example, the indigenous people in the US. And I believe that as a human being who has been oppressed his entire life, we should feel for those who are oppressed in different countries, in other places. And there is nothing that disgusts me more than people who are oppressed in their own countries, who have tasted oppression in their own in Europe, in America, and in the US. And until now, they insist on not feeling, not sharing with the Palestinian people. I don't want to go into much details, but I think people now understand those who I am referring to. If you do not feel for other people there, you should question your humanity. You should question your values. You should question your ethics.
Well, I couldn't say it better
Ahmed, well,
myself. Go
real
ahead.
quick, before we wrap up here, Ahmed, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to tell people where they can follow
Yes.
the excellent interviews that you do, which I know they can find on many platforms.
Well, I host my podcast for Palestine Deep Dive, so you can go to palestinedeepdive.org, palestinedeepdive.com right now, in our YouTube channel or Substack, and you find all our interviews. In Palestine Deep Dive, we try to center the Palestinian voices here in the UK because they have been neglected for so many years, and we try to center the Palestinian voices, the Palestinian narrative. We choose the guests, we pick the stories, and we decide on the topics that we're going to discuss in Palestine Deep Dive. So please watch our interviews and go to We Are Not Numbers and read the stories of the Palestinians who have been writing their stories from Gaza, from under the genocide. These people deserve to have their stories read and shared. So please
No,
do that.
absolutely. Absolutely. We're following it closely, and I hope everyone else does too. Ahmed, thank you so much for giving us some of your time here in the Freedom Side.
Thank you very much.